At the United Nations annual climate summits, Norway is often the darling in the room. Although it is an energy-producing country, Norwegians are keen to stress the bold emissions reduction measures at home. The country has adopted legislation to become climate neutral by 2030, far earlier than other countries. It's a frontrunner in electromobility and will also ban the use of fossil fuels to heat homes from 2020. However, a new report from the Washington-based research organization Oil Change International is challenging Norway's reputation as a climate champion. Though it may be adopting laudable emissions reduction efforts domestically, it is exporting 10 times the amount of its domestic emissions to other countries through the extraction and export of North Sea oil and gas. It is the 6th largest gas producer in the world, and the 15th largest oil producer. Growing oil exploration. The main thing worrying Friends of the Earth Norway, which sponsored the report, is that these exports are set to grow. Norway is issuing oil and gas exploration permits within its territories in the North Sea and the Arctic at a rapid pace. According to the report, these proposed and prospective new oil and gas fields would increase Norway's emissions by 150% from what it is today. Norway wants to be a climate leader, but every lease sale, every piece of new fossil fuel infrastructure, and every expansion into new carbon to be burned elsewhere says otherwise, Friends of the Earth Silja Asklundberg told DW. Norway carries out an enormous amount of fossil fuel extraction in the North Sea. The report represents the first calculation of Norway's planned oil and gas extraction expansion, compared with the goals of the Paris Climate Agreement. The research says 12 gigatons of carbon could be added by exploration sites in the Barents Sea and other parts of the Arctic over the next 50 years, and concludes that the plants are incompatible with the Paris goals to limit global warming to no more than 2 degrees Celsius (3.6 degrees Fahrenheit). The spotlight on oil policies in Norway comes at a strategic time, just 1 month before a general election that could bring in a new government there. The report calls on the new government to freeze further leases or permits for new oil and gas extraction projects, or for transportation infrastructure that would incentivize further exploration. The good producer Norway has long insisted that continued extraction in its territories, particularly of gas, fits into a global emissions reduction strategy because Norwegian gas emits far less emissions than Middle Eastern oil. This report assumes that reduced production in Norway will lead to a fall in requests for oil and gas equal to what we produce. Tommy Hansen, Director for Industrial Policy at the Norwegian Oil and Gas Association, told DW. With the association believing the amount of oil and gas that the market will demand will be in line with what the International Energy Agency is predicting, Hansen said the question is who's going to produce that oil and gas. We believe there are a number of reasons that Norway should be one of the countries to produce it. Norway has been issuing exploration permits in the Lofoten archipelago within the Arctic Circle. One of the reasons is that gas, which makes up the bulk of Norway's fossil fuel exports, is a far cleaner fuel than oil or coal. Increased imports of Norwegian gas has enabled Norway's European neighbors to decrease their emissions by using less oil and coal, as has been the case with the United Kingdom. This spring, the UK will have a coal-free day for the first time since 1892, and the reason they can do that is because of Norwegian gas, which has half the emissions of coal, said Hansen. The other reason Norway believes it should continue producing is that it does so in what it says is the cleanest way possible, under strict restrictions not in place in other producing countries. The world needs energy and Norway produces oil and gas resources very efficiently. Jens Frolic Holt, a political advisor to Norway's Minister for Climate and Environment, told DW. Norwegian Prime Minister Erna Solberg is holding the position that Norway should not stop extracting fossil fuels. He points out that Norway is subject to the European Union's emissions trading scheme, and producers are thus subject to a CO2 price of about €50. This incentivizes production to be very efficient, he explained. We have very strict regulations on emissions from oil production, he said. Of Norway's gas, 95% is exported to Europe, to countries that are subject to a very strict climate regime. Holt also said that Norway's long-term emission reduction policies at home carry forward the shift away from fossil fuels. Arctic invasions. The report counters this argument, asserting that Norway's continued extraction efforts are hurting the global effort to wean the world off of oil and gas. It raises particular alarm about the country's plans for oil development in the Arctic. Much of this proposed development pushes further into the fragile and remote Arctic, where a spill would be catastrophic, the report warns. Last year, Oslo issued 56 new licenses to allow 36 companies to explore near the Lofoten Islands, home of some of the world's richest cod stocks. Statoil, the national oil company, also plans to spend $6 billion developing the Castberg field, a stretch of Arctic Ocean to the north of the country that could hold as much as 650 million barrels of oil equivalent. However, much of this exploration is on hold pending the election on September 11, particularly any extractive activity at the Lofoten Islands. So far, Conservative Prime Minister Erna Solberg has remained unconvinced by the argument that Norway should stop extraction. But Green groups are hoping that a successive government might be more open to the message. Svalbard belongs to Norway. The archipelago is about the size of Belgium and Switzerland combined. All that's visible are small, flattened hilltops. Trees forget about it, but the air is crystal clear, the sky deep blue. It's a breathtaking landscape. During summer, it's light out 24 hours a day, while in winter, it stays in darkness, and the temperature drops to -25 degrees Celsius. Over the past few years, the region has become a hub for international Arctic research. Marine biologists, meteorologists, geologists, geophysicists and ice researchers carry out their scientific activities on and around Svalbard. There are about 350 glaciers on Svalbard, but they have started to show signs of climate change. The summer ice cap may disappear completely by the end of this century. The number of fish and bird species that are not native to the region has risen. For example, mackerels from warmer parts of the ocean can nowadays be found near the Svalbard coast. About 2,500 people live in Longyearbyen, the capital of Svalbard. The small village with its colorful wooden houses used to be a coal town. Mining started there in 1906. Today, only a few remaining coal shafts bear witness to former industrial boom times. What does remains is the massive logistical effort that comes with life on Svalbard. Every light bulb, every apple, every piece of steel needs to be flown in, or travel 950 kilometers by ship from the Norwegian mainland to the archipelago. About a kilometer from Longyearbyen is the entrance to the treasure chest. For the outside, the only thing visible is a narrow concrete entrance that seems to grow out of the snow-capped mountain. Behind the entrance is a tube-like tunnel, leading 120 meters slightly downhill into the earth. A shimmering silver wiring system, including cooling, is attached to the ceiling. The temperature in the tunnel remains at a constant -7 degrees Celsius in summer and winter alike. At the end of the tunnel is the door to the vault. The Arctic cold of Svalbard is supposed to serve as a natural protection for the seeds. The idea behind the seed vault is to have a backup for biodiversity. No one is sure how heavy loss of crop diversity might affect humankind. Svalbard is an ideal storage place for seeds, for a number of reasons. Norway is not involved in any war. According to the Svalbard Treaty signed in 1920, Svalbard is a demilitarized zone. The region is geomorphically stable. There are no earthquakes or volcanoes. In addition, the seed vault is located 130 meters above sea level, which protects it from floods. 3 times a year, the place bustles with activity when seeds are delivered and stored inside the mountain. There's space for 4.5 million different types of crop plants, and about 500 seeds per species are stored in the vault. This means that there is room there for more than 2.25 billion seeds. At the moment, only one of 3 vaults is in use. These seeds from Germany are stored in hermetically sealed aluminum packaging. At the moment, Svalbard is storing 865,000 seed samples covering 5,103 different plant species from all over the planet. From Afghanistan to the Central African Republic, the official catalogue lists seeds from just about every country in the world. Recently, for the first time in history, an organization reclaimed its seeds after the International Center for Agricultural Research in the dry areas in Aleppo, Syria, had been destroyed. It asked to get back grain seeds specially adapted to drylands farming. The organization reopened its headquarters in Beirut, and is trying to rebuild its seed stocks. Author Marek H.F.